Meghan, a geriatric mother. The family claims and states that Meghan had a hysterectomy. How can a woman with a hysterectomy be pregnant? And most of all, why did the royal family go along with this? And what's going to happen now that this has come out? This is a punishable crime. This is fraud in the highest levels.
Things just got a whole load worse for Meghan Markle because her sister Samantha ain't going anywhere.
I do believe because there are no delivery certificate.
The world painted her as a real-life fairy tale princess, but that glass slipper wasn't a perfect fit. Meghan Markle hammered it onto her foot, watched it splinter, and then sold the broken pieces as exclusive content to streaming giants.
In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
Hollywood's climb to royal heights became a public relations battlefield where Meghan cast herself as lead actress, screenwriter, and victim all at once.
Did you make Kate cry?
No, the reverse happened.
Every tear shed, every interview given, every private family moment leaked got perfectly choreographed for maximum headlines. The strategic brilliance almost impresses you.
When you have been lied about for a series of years, how hurtful that is.
Underneath all the carefully curated social media posts and orchestrated royal appearances, Samantha Markle insists there's something Meghan's been hiding deeper than any palace vault.
People think her kids are fake. They think they're AI.
I'm going to quote Tom Bauer by saying, he said, look, we all laughed at Samantha and she was right. And everything she said has come true.
Something that could blow apart her entire narrative. The baby bump timeline, the royal marriage, maybe even who's really next in line for the throne.
And there's a very big difference. It was deliberate.
And that's when Samantha told everyone to dig into the calendar dates. Internet investigators took that challenge seriously, and what they uncovered wasn't just surprising, but explosive. If Samantha's claims prove accurate, then everything about Meghan's motherhood journey could be an elaborate theatrical production.
This scandal comes as no surprise. Speculation about the children has been simmering for years.
Prepare yourselves, because this story goes way beyond the sanitized version the royal establishment wants you to swallow. This is the Meghan Markle expose they never saw coming, delivered by the one person who can't be silenced with palace protocols, her own sister. Once you see what's really going on, you'll never look at the Duchess the same way again.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample.
Every royal drama needs someone to blame. But in this story, Samantha Markle wasn't about to accept the villain role that Meghan had written for her. Years passed while she witnessed her half-sister's transformation from struggling TV actress to international royalty, posing for photographers, reinventing her history, and pretending she'd always been destined for palace life. Throughout this entire journey, Samantha kept her mouth shut until the silence began feeling like a betrayal of everything she knew to be true. Underneath all the public appearances and humanitarian speeches, Meghan didn't just create distance from her family, but completely wiped them out of her story. The same woman who talks about kindness and empathy couldn't even pick up the phone for her disabled father or the sister who used to protect her from schoolyard bullies.
When she said, I lost my father, we knew that she didn't lose our dad, she iced our father.
Samantha reached her breaking point and decided if her sister could play revisionist historian, then she'd become the family archivist who actually remembered what went down. What followed wasn't a screaming match or a tell-all interview, but something far more devastating. One quiet, calculated statement. People need to look at the timeline. 6 words dropped like a nuclear bomb into the conversation, and sometimes the quietest weapons cause the most damage. This phrase detonated across social media because deep down, everyone had been thinking the same thing about Meghan's whole pregnancy narrative. The math didn't add up, the photos raised questions, and the extreme secrecy around everything felt suspicious. While Meghan's damage control team worked overtime trying to shut down the speculation, Samantha sat back with the satisfied expression of someone holding all the cards, watching the dominoes fall, knowing she'd just given the internet detectives exactly the breadcrumb trail they needed to start connecting dots that had been sitting there all along.
If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
Samantha was just getting warmed up, and once she'd planted that seed of doubt, Meghan's carefully constructed royal persona started cracking like old paint. When Samantha challenged people to examine the timeline, most folks initially brushed it off as jealous sister drama, but then the curious ones actually started digging, and what they found turned eye rolls into raised eyebrows. The more you investigate Meghan's supposed miraculous pregnancies, the weirder the whole thing becomes. October 2018 rolls around and Kensington Palace drops the baby news. Meghan's pregnant just 5 months after saying "I do" in that multi-million-dollar wedding spectacle. Sounds like a perfect royal love story, doesn't it? Here's where things get strange. No paparazzi shots of hospital visits, no leaked information about which doctor handled the delivery, zero credible witnesses who could confirm they actually watched her go through labor. For someone who lived her entire life in front of cameras, Meghan somehow managed to have the most secretive pregnancy and birth in modern royal history, even more private than actual royalty who've been doing this secrecy thing for centuries.
A doctor has come forward and has absolutely revealed, and you're going to listen to her. She has absolutely revealed and confirmed that Rachel Meghan Markle was never pregnant, never gave birth to any children.
Then came the belly incidents that sent conspiracy theorists into overdrive. And that viral moment where her bump appeared to collapse inward when she bent down looked like watching a balloon deflate in real time. Official explanation? Just a weird camera angle and fabric bunching, but the internet wasn't buying it. With some people convinced they just witnessed a prosthetic malfunction on live television. Jump to 2021 and baby number 2 arrives with an identical playbook, zero hospital paparazzi shots, no leaked medical details, weeks of waiting for any official documentation. Every public outing felt like watching a carefully rehearsed performance where everyone knew their marks and no one dared go off script, while the palace's response to mounting questions remained radio silence, and that classic royal tactic of pretending controversy doesn't exist. Old medical records started making the rounds online. Whispers about a procedure Meghan allegedly endured years before meeting Harry, the kind of surgery that would make carrying children biologically impossible. Suddenly all those strange coincidences weren't looking so coincidental anymore. Samantha wasn't just stirring up family drama with her timeline comment, but handing people a roadmap to connect dots that had been hiding in plain sight. If those medical rumors hold any truth, and if the dates really don't line up, then we're potentially looking at the most elaborate royal deception in modern history, where every carefully staged photo shoot, every protective hand placed on that bump, every tearful interview about motherhood might have been pure theater.
I don't like to say it, but I gotta say it. I don't know of anybody that cold to do this.
The plot was about to thicken in ways nobody saw coming, and the bombshell didn't drop from Buckingham Palace press releases or royal correspondence, but came from someone calling herself simply DL. No fancy credentials, no media connections, just 2 mysterious initials attached to a story that could potentially detonate the entire royal brand. Years passed with this woman as a complete ghost, locked behind legal gag orders and payments funneled through shadowy overseas accounts, but apparently even the tightest NDAs have breaking points. DL dropped a claim that rewrote everything. She wasn't just some random observer to this royal baby drama, but allegedly the actual biological mother of those children everyone assumed were Meghan's. Her story read like something out of a Hollywood thriller, painting a picture of exclusive fertility clinics tucked away in Beverly Hills, with security tighter than Fort Knox and patients using fake identities that would make CIA operatives proud. According to DL, Meghan and Harry would show up separately for appointments, completely disguised and operating under aliases that kept their real identities buried. Every aspect got supposedly choreographed down to the minute, with clinic visits strategically scheduled around Meghan's public appearances to maintain the illusion, and DL claimed that once her role was complete, she became a non-person, erased from all documentation, paid through untraceable channels, and expected to vanish completely from the narrative. When she finally broke her silence, her voice carried the weight of someone who'd been treated as disposable property rather than a human being. This wasn't tabloid gossip or internet speculation anymore, but someone claiming direct involvement in what could be the most sophisticated royal cover-up in modern history.
Tell you why. What she told the royal family, what she told Harry, wouldn't have jived, wouldn't have been consistent with the truth.
Delitzsch wasn't content to just tell her story, but brought the receipts that would make any investigative reporter's heart race. This wasn't social media drama or anonymous tips, but a paper trail that could potentially rewrite royal history. She laid out a collection of evidence that read like a spy novel, medical intake documents bearing the exact dates that matched Meghan's pregnancy announcements, ultrasound images filed under mysterious code names, and a digital money trail weaving through multiple offshore companies like a financial shell game. Every piece of documentation allegedly synchronized perfectly with the official royal timeline, and the clinic appointment records supposedly aligned with Meghan's public appearances like clockwork, as if someone had orchestrated the entire charade with military precision. The timing felt so perfect it seemed almost too convenient to be coincidental. The real bombshells were the digital communications, encrypted email chains, correspondence using initials that seem to reference royal code names, and ironclad confidentiality agreements that threaten complete financial destruction for anyone who dared break their silence. Legal threats weren't just about money, but designed to obliterate someone's entire existence if they stepped out of line. Darling had apparently been living under this sword of Damocles for years, watching the royal fairy tale play out in public while knowing her alleged role in creating it. Evidence she presented suggested a level of planning and secrecy that would make intelligence agencies envious if any of it proved authentic.
Here, the doctor talks about both the children, and listen to what she says.
So you tell me to tell you something that maybe a dozen people actually know that's going to come out very soon. Okay. Meghan Markle, the reason why you watch her interviews and she just seems off. She's owned by a pharmaceutical company. The 2 children that she had, they're not hers. She didn't have them with Harry.
According to DL, the financial arrangement hit a snag during the second pregnancy when the payments suddenly dried up midway through, with her silence supposedly becoming the final compensation in lieu of actual money. This time, DL wasn't willing to fade into the background like a discarded prop. Her allegations detonated across the internet at lightning speed, faster than any royal PR team could contain the blast, and discussion boards went into overdrive. Trending hashtags dominated social media, and news outlets frantically tried to fact-check claims that seemed designed to be unverifiable. Frustrating reality for journalists was that most of the evidence existed in legal gray areas where confirmation was nearly impossible. Yet the patterns were too precise to dismiss as pure coincidence, and every detail seemed to click together like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that someone had deliberately scattered. DL delivered the knockout punch that silenced even her harshest critics, a public challenge to submit to DNA testing on live television if anyone questioned her claims. That single statement transformed idle internet speculation into something much more serious, because suddenly this wasn't about anonymous accusations or questionable documents anymore, but about scientific proof that could settle the matter permanently. Palace's complete radio silence in response to this challenge only amplified the intrigue. And when the royal machine that usually spins everything into positive PR suddenly goes mute, people start connecting dots they probably shouldn't. The unthinkable question began echoing in comment sections and dinner conversations everywhere. What if this mysterious woman was actually telling the truth?
And when you're pregnant, there's not a pillow under your skirt. And there's live footage of her walking towards camera with her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white checkered dress.
When DL issued her DNA challenge, the digital world erupted like a volcano, and those 16 words spread across the internet faster than wildfire, turning every social platform into a debate arena. Major news networks scrambled to book interviews, global hashtags dominated trending lists, and comment threads became virtual war zones. Online populations split into 2 fierce camps. DL's supporters hailed her as a whistleblower, finally exposing royal lies, while critics dismissed her as an attention-seeking opportunist trying to cash in on conspiracy theories. Even the doubters couldn't shake that nagging question lurking in the back of their minds. Media feeding frenzy reached fever pitch as morning shows competed for exclusive interviews, tabloid editors waved blank checks with astronomical figures, and amateur internet detectives analyzed every pixel of her footage like they were solving a murder case. The story had evolved from royal gossip into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's response was deafening in its complete absence. No lawyers issuing statements, no palace representatives offering clarifications, no social media posts addressing the chaos, just total radio silence that somehow felt more damning than any denial could have been. Samantha made her next calculated move without directly endorsing or refuting DL's explosive claims, posting a simple quote attributed to their father. "The truth doesn't fear questions." Barely a sentence, but it landed like a match thrown onto gasoline-soaked kindling, and the royal controversy that was already spiraling out of control had just been given rocket fuel.
But if you look at this, Meghan Markle has been incredibly quiet about the birth, but mostly the pregnancy of these children. Everything has been shady. The one who's been blabbing and saying crazy things is Prince Harry.
Behind the palace walls, panic mode had officially activated as emergency board meetings stretched into the night while PR strategists worked around the clock trying to contain a crisis that seemed to grow bigger by the hour. According to leaked whispers from palace insiders, conversations had shifted from damage control to something far more serious, questions about bloodline legitimacy that nobody wanted to discuss out loud. What began as family drama had snowballed into a potential constitutional crisis of epic proportions, and if DL's DNA challenge ever moved from internet spectacle to actual laboratory results, and if those results didn't align with the official story, the implications would stretch far beyond embarrassing headlines or royal gossip. This controversy was now touching the most sacred foundation of the British monarchy, the rules governing who gets to inherit the crown. Legal experts were quietly dusting off centuries-old documentation that spelled out exactly how royal succession works, and what they found was both simple and devastating. Buried in the fine print of succession law sits an ancient requirement that every legitimate royal heir must be born of the body, meaning naturally born to the official parents. Old school language from a different era, but it remains the legal bedrock of royal legitimacy, and if Darling's claims were ever scientifically validated, it could theoretically place Harry and Meghan's children in a constitutional gray area that the monarchy has never had to navigate before. A single unproven allegation from a mysterious woman had somehow managed to threaten the very legal structure that keeps the royal family tree intact, and the constitutional lawyers were probably having nightmares about precedents that don't exist for problems nobody thought they'd ever face.
I have simply not made an announcement to the fact that all of the speculation about the children's arrival.
Behind the ornate palace doors, chaos was masquerading as controlled crisis management, and insiders described a whirlwind of desperate conference calls with top legal minds and carefully orchestrated briefings designed to keep journalists from wandering into forbidden territory. Constitutional lawyers found themselves debating questions that textbooks never covered, like whether 21st century reproductive technology could coexist with centuries-old royal bloodline requirements. Politicians suddenly developed an allergic reaction to microphones, treating every interview request like a potential career-ending trap, while the British public fractured into opposing camps, progressive voices arguing the monarchy needed to evolve with modern times, traditionalists demanding complete transparency from an institution built on ancestral legitimacy. Online conspiracy theorists had a field day, spinning wild narratives that somehow managed to find believers in every corner of the internet. Conversation had evolved beyond family feuds into something much more existential. Whether the British monarchy could weather yet another public relations catastrophe. Palace sources suggested this wasn't just damage control anymore, but institutional survival mode. And when the crown's reputation starts showing cracks, history has taught them one golden rule: preserve the monarchy at all costs, even if individuals become collateral damage. Royal response strategies seem to be their trademark silence, that calculated Windsor quietness that has smothered countless scandals throughout history. But this time, their usual tactic backfired spectacularly. Instead of conveying control and dignity, the silence felt like admission of guilt, and every hour without official comment only amplified the speculation. Television panels debated whether the palace was showing strategic restraint or guilty panic, while internet investigators combed through archived photos and old press releases searching for hidden clues. Meghan's supporters screamed about coordinated harassment campaigns, while skeptics shouted about deliberate cover-ups and institutional corruption. Standing at the eye of this hurricane was Samantha, appearing on talk shows with the composed demeanor of someone who'd already made peace with her outsider status. Her interviews carried an unsettling calmness. No emotional outbursts or personal attacks, just carefully measured statements about accountability, truth, and family loyalty that somehow felt more devastating than any screaming match could have been. Each television appearance seemed to chip away another piece of Meghan's carefully constructed public persona, and Samantha even dropped hints that she was holding back additional evidence, ready to deploy if the palace tried to silence her permanently.
I think the palace and the machinery of the monarchy needs to take Harry and Meghan more seriously and make sure that Harry and Meghan's antics don't impact the future of the crown.
Media landscape had transformed into a feeding frenzy that made shark attacks look civilized, and photographers camped outside fertility clinics trying to access medical records. Legal experts debated the boundaries between public interest and personal privacy, and even seasoned royal commentators admitted they'd witnessed nothing quite like this level of public division in their careers. Every silence became front-page speculation, every rumor morphed into potential breaking news, and Meghan and Harry's continued refusal to address any of the allegations only intensified the scrutiny. Their supporters saw principled resistance to harassment, while critics interpreted it as confirmation of guilt, and for neutral observers, it just looked like a PR nightmare wrapped in expensive legal advice. Samantha delivered her final devastating blow not through a splashy press conference or orchestrated media event, but in the most understated way possible, a quiet interview in an unassuming studio with minimal production value. When the interviewer posed the direct question about whether she had any regrets, Samantha's response cut through all the noise with laser precision. Regret only if the truth stops being the truth. 10 words that somehow carried more weight than thousands of previous headlines. Statement wasn't delivered with anger or vindication, but pure resignation, like someone who'd finally stopped caring whether people believed her or not. You could see the accumulated weight of years spent being dismissed, ignored, and painted as the jealous outsider who didn't matter. Samantha had evolved past seeking validation or sympathy and instead laid out a stark picture of family gatherings that never included her, important calls that were never returned, and watching her sister construct a public narrative that conveniently erased inconvenient family members. Her delivery was clinical rather than emotional, not the ranting of someone seeking revenge, but the methodical testimony of someone who simply wanted the record corrected, and she made it clear that fame and attention weren't her goals, but that she just wanted the truth to be louder than the carefully crafted fiction.
In this case, about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump, the fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie.
As the interview wrapped up, Samantha delivered one final line that would echo across the internet for months. History will remember who told the truth first. Within hours, that clip had exploded across every social platform imaginable, and her defenders praised her courage for speaking out against powerful institutions, while her detractors condemned her for what they saw as a calculated attack on family. Regardless of which side people chose, everyone was watching. Love her or despise her, nobody could deny that Samantha had managed to shatter the pristine royal image that PR teams had spent years constructing. And for once, a fairy tale wasn't ending with wedding bells and happily ever after, but concluding with uncomfortable questions that nobody in power seemed willing to answer. Where does all this leave us after months of explosive interviews, leaked documents, and allegations that set the digital world ablaze? We're left staring at the wreckage. A family torn apart by accusations, a monarchy playing defense against questions they refuse to acknowledge, and a sister who's made it clear she won't be silenced by threats or bribes. Whether Samantha's revelations represent absolute truth or the fury of someone who feels abandoned, one outcome remains undeniable. She's exposed fractures in the royal facade that no amount of expensive damage control can completely heal. When truth itself becomes a war zone, the first casualty is always reputation, and in this particular battle, everyone's wounds are showing. Duchess who wanted to modernize the monarchy, the sister who feels erased from history, the ancient institution trying to navigate 21st century scandals all pay the price for a conflict that shows no signs of ending. Before you form your final judgment about who's telling the truth in this mess, you need the full picture of how this controversy began. Our previous investigation revealed exactly how Meghan's pregnancy narrative started falling apart when Candace Owens presented evidence that sent royal insiders into complete panic mode. And that story connects every single detail you've just heard. The suspicious timelines, the excessive secrecy, the documentary proof, and it transforms everything you thought you knew about this royal drama. While Samantha's parting words spread like wildfire across social media, a different kind of response was building momentum in medical offices and fact-checking rooms around the world. Professional experts had been watching the conspiracy theories multiply for months, and they'd finally reached their breaking point. Dr. Farah Ahmed became the first medical professional to speak up publicly, and her analysis cut through the speculation like a scalpel. Those mysterious bumps and lumps that conspiracy theorists had been dissecting frame by frame in viral videos. CTG monitors, she explained calmly. Standard equipment that tracks fetal heartbeat and uterine contractions during routine prenatal visits, and any woman who'd received proper pregnancy care would recognize them instantly. Consultant midwife Leslie Bland took the debunking even further, systematically addressing each piece of supposed evidence that had convinced thousands of online detectives. Strange bump shapes that looked suspicious, baby limbs protruding at different angles throughout the day, she noted, completely normal for any pregnancy, and size variations that seemed impossible. Expected when the mother maintains strong abdominal muscles through yoga and fitness routines. Her assessment was blunt and professional. This speculation doesn't hold up medically, period. John Thoppel from Texas AANDM tackled the claims about Meghan looking too fit during pregnancy, explaining that women with maintained core strength often carry high and keep their figure well into the third trimester. What conspiracy theorists viewed as evidence of deception was actually evidence of excellent prenatal health and fitness preparation. Spectator published perhaps the most damning analysis of all, focusing not on medical details but on pure logistics, noting that faking a 9-month pregnancy in the modern era would require the active participation of dozens of medical professionals, hospital staff, ultrasound technicians, blood work specialists, and the entire royal medical team. Coordination needed to maintain such a lie across 2 pregnancies would make it the most ambitious conspiracy in recorded history. Professional fact-checkers were simultaneously building their own case against the misinformation, and Snopes investigators tracked down the viral Kensington Palace tweet about surrogacy that had convinced millions of people, and their conclusion was devastating, completely fabricated. Screenshot contained formatting inconsistencies, grammatical errors, and attribution problems that revealed its artificial origin. Christopher Boozy from Bot Sentinel captured the futility of fighting conspiracy theories with facts when he observed you could show them a video of Meghan giving birth and they'd claim it was CGI technology. Rational evidence doesn't work on irrational minds. Medical community had brought expertise, documentation, and scientific analysis to combat the theories, but they were about to discover something that would change their entire understanding of what they were really fighting. Medical community had brought expertise, documentation, and scientific analysis to combat the theories, but they were about to discover something that would change their entire understanding of what they were really fighting. What they found wasn't just misinformation or family drama, it was a coordinated system designed to profit from controversy, where every click and angry comment translated into real money for the people spreading these stories. The same algorithms that were supposed to connect us with truth were actually amplifying the loudest, angriest voices in the room. And that's the real story here. This isn't really about Meghan Markle's pregnancies or family feuds or even royal succession laws. It's about how our digital world has created a machine that turns human pain into entertainment, personal tragedy into trending topics, and family disputes into global spectacles that generate millions of views and enormous profits for people who don't care about the truth. The saddest part, the infrastructure that targeted Meghan is still out there, still profitable, still looking for its next victim. The same systems that amplified these conspiracy theories are waiting to do it again to someone else, because as long as outrage pays better than facts, as long as algorithms reward engagement over accuracy, this cycle will continue. Meghan and Harry stayed silent through most of this, which probably seemed like the dignified choice. But silence in the digital age isn't protection, it's just leaving a vacuum for other people to fill with whatever story they want to tell about you. Maybe the lesson here isn't about royalty or pregnancies or family loyalty. Maybe it's about recognizing that in a world where anyone can broadcast to millions, where lies travel faster than truth, and where controversy is more profitable than compassion, we all have a choice to make about what kind of information we consume, share, and believe. Because if this story teaches us anything, it's that the real power isn't in palaces or titles, it's in the stories we choose to tell and the stories we choose to believe. And right now, the loudest storytellers aren't necessarily the most honest ones.